9K for what? Someone protests in this student halls of residence. It was autumn 2020. Restrictions had tightened yet again. Students here in lockdown venting their frustration as again a rapid retreat to remote learning kicked in. The price paid for tuition versus the experience received could now be the subject of multiple claims against 36 universities in England and Wales.
The basis for the claims is very simple. During the pandemic, students had paid for in-person teaching and access to university facilities and were not given that. They were given online teaching and libraries and other facilities were very often closed. And when you pay for one thing and you receive something else, which is less valuable, then under English law, you're entitled to compensation.
Georgia Johnson is among the claimants. She was on a teacher training course at the University of Manchester.
The lectures, the seminars, that was all over Zoom. So, you know when you go into a breakout room and no one talks, that's what it was. So I was adding as much as I could during learning time, but really I wasn't getting that practical practice, I guess, and also wasn't getting that discussion time with my peers. Because it's very easy to just mute yourself and say, I'm not going to do it.
She also says accessing support proved difficult and affected her mental health.
When I did finally finish my PGCE, I just did not feel ready to go into the classroom at all.
The University of Manchester referred us to Universities UK, which represents more than 140 institutions. In a statement, they told us,
the COVID-19 pandemic threw 2 years of unprecedented challenges at universities and their students. Institutions, like other sectors, followed government guidance to adapt to a fast-changing situation. During some periods of lockdown, universities were not permitted to offer in-person teaching as usual, and instead they adjusted quickly and creatively to allow students to complete their degrees.
The backdrop to today, legal action dating back several years, which culminated recently in an undisclosed settlement between University College London and 6,000 students represented by Student Group Claim. The university said it admitted no liability. Student Group Claim said one of the law firms involved was now working with more than 170,000 students. Can you give me a rough idea of how much compensation you would be seeking for a typical claimant?
We've consistently said for a UK undergraduate who was at university during the pandemic, the amount they would be claiming is approximately £5,000.
Universities are under a lot of financial pressure at the moment. This could compound an already very difficult situation for a lot of them.
We're only seeking compensation for our clients who are part of Student Group Claim, and their claims are relatively modest compared with the budgets and compared with the resources which universities have available to them.
36 universities have now received pre-action legal letters. Others could face the same, we were told, should more potential claimants emerge.
Well, the UK's COVID inquiry has now begun its final stage, taking evidence on the impact of the pandemic on society, including homeless people and victims of domestic abuse, as well as the key workers who had to keep on working. Families affected have described it as a huge moment, as our health and social care editor, Victoria MacDonald, reports.
We want you to stay at home. That's how we can protect our NHS and save lives.
It is absolutely critical that people follow our instructions to stay at home so that we can protect the NHS and save lives.
It was a clear message, simple and to the point, except what if you had no home to stay in, no door to close, no shelter for the night? Today was the opening of the 10th and final module of the COVID inquiry, and it's perhaps its most ambitious yet, looking at the impact of the pandemic on UK society, asking questions about domestic violence, about the clinically vulnerable, about key workers who still had to go into the office or the hospital or the supermarkets, and asking questions too about what happened to the homeless. When COVID hit, Mariusz Pawinski was living rough, his life consumed by where he would get his next drug fix. In a subway near the Tower of London, he showed us the spot where he would sometimes sleep.
There's exactly just there in the middle when you see the dark space. places, yeah, in the middle of the tunnel. So that was a place where we used to sleep. I used to sleep, you know, sometimes begging, being ill from COVID.
In March 2020, the government launched Everybody In. Eventually, as many as 33,000 people were found accommodation. But Marius refused the first offer.
He even said, come with us now. And I was already like literally not even an hour when I was awake. So I knew the first thing what I need to do to fix myself, to not being clacking from the opiates.
What's clucking?
Clacking, you know, when you need a dose of heroin to be normal, you know. Otherwise you're suffering like fever.
So all you thought about was
just being ill,
getting a fix,
sick,
and
yeah.
and not
and
getting a roof over your
yes,
head.
Yeah. I used to sleep just there,
Just down here. Like others too, he said he didn't trust authorities, but showing us yet another place he used to sleep. He also said that by September 2020, he had changed his mind. He did want accommodation. Something in your mind thought, you know what, yes, I do need to go inside. I need to be in some accommodation.
I thought I become clean, you know. This is the chance to become clean.
So it wasn't the fear of COVID, it was the idea that you could get some support.
Yeah. Just to start my new life, you know, new chapter, so yeah.
Now, 6 years later, Marius is drug-free, lives in a flat and has a job. Housing so many homeless was seen as something positive to come out of the pandemic, but it hasn't sustained.
I think it was an amazing opportunity to see what could happen when the whole system coordinated, when health really played a part and was central to the system, and when there was enough money, resources and focus on it. What we have seen is from that immediate 37% reduction in rough sleeping overnight as a result of lockdown, we then moved into afterwards actually a retreat back into the levels of rough sleeping above what we were seeing before.
Ben Connor, the secretary to the inquiry, told me that tens of thousands have shared their experiences of the pandemic and are feeding into what lessons can be learned.
Hundreds of thousands of people died. More than £375 billion worth of cost to the Exchequer. Our first report laid bare the lack of preparedness of all 4 UK nations for a pandemic, and the public should rightly be very, very annoyed if it turns out that our recommendations to make sure the UK is better prepared next time are ignored. So far the signs are good, and our recommendations from the first module have been implemented largely.
This final module will last for 3 weeks, and then there will be the publication of the remaining reports, with the inquiry due to complete sometime next year.